Good evening, and thank you for all joining us here at 60 Minutes tonight. As usual, you have Maury Safer. I am especially pleased to welcome Professor Jackson Monis, Professor of Anthropology from Stanford University. Professor, I'm especially excited to hear more about the Mongolian Empire. And over the years, I feel like I've heard different types of information, conflicting information, so I'm looking forward to you giving us details to help us understand what the empire was really about. Me and, of course, our guests at home. So let's just start at the beginning. Tell us about the beginning of the Mongolian Empire, please.
Yeah, sure. Before the Mongols rose to become one of the most dominant civilizations ever on the face of the earth, they were a relatively insignificant nomadic society located on the steppes of northern China. They consisted of numerous kin-related clans who settled in their own pasture lands and campsites. The Mongols had a direct election by the freemen for leadership positions. In the late 1100s, an individual named Temujin was born who would change the course of history. Following the death of Temujin's father, he was put in a position of leadership as a mere teenager. Appearing weak, his clan was attacked and he was taken into captivity. He was able to escape this captivity, and him, along with his clan, joined a more powerful Mongol group. Temujin was able to successfully grow and develop into a man and become an extremely successful commander and warrior. He destroyed the Mongol rivals, resulting in his following increasing exponentially. At the meeting of all Mongol chieftain called the Kurultala, Temujin was elected Khangan and supreme ruler of Mongol tribes. He was renamed Genghis Khan. He brought together the militaries of all Mongol tribes into one daunting force.
So that's where Genghis Khan came from.
Yes.
I didn't realize that he was born under one name and then changed his name.
Yes, yeah, after becoming...
That helps put some things into place. Thank you.
And then the force, and so he brought together the militaries of all Mongol tribes into one daunting force. The force was comprised of 2 men with soldiers bred for war since youth. One of the brilliant methods of the Mongols was an all-cavalry military. It allowed them to strike quickly and move effectively throughout the land. This aspect, coupled with their deadly short bows, made them as unparalleled in military capability and ready to take on the world.
Very interesting. By living on the steppes, I take it that the horses were in plenty of supply, and that's why they were able to develop this whole army that were based on horseback.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. So tell me more about their nomadic life, because I think you mentioned that they move around quite a bit. Help us understand that more.
Yes, to begin with the most important characteristic, it was that the Mongol people was the distinct nomadic, to begin with the most important characteristic to understand about the Mongol people was that they had a distinct nomadic way of life. Clearly, this means that agriculture played less of a role in the later Khan Empire that would develop. Instead, animal husbandry became the major point of food. The main 5 types of animals raised were sheep, goats, cattle, camels, and horses. These animals provided meat and dairy for substance, a mode for transportation, and wool for clothing and shelter. The horses held a special position in Mongol society, and mass amounts of oral legends were created about them. Children were taught to ride as soon as they could walk. Horses were primary weapons of war and modes of transportation, as I mentioned before. Work was divided by gender, but no role was considered more important than the other. Men traditionally handled horses, saddles, weapons, and any additional hunting required to supplement daily diets. Besides taking care of daily fermentation, women actually held similar roles to women today, taking care of children, cooking, and making clothes. Mongolians' very mobile drawers were made of wood and leather, and were known for quick ability to both erect and dismantle. Culture dominated both Kamusi, Sinin, Morin Hurry, and Longsan, all forms of verbal expression. The Nadim Festival and Tegan Sar were the 2 primary holidays celebrated annually. The culture consisted of 3 sports: archery, horse riding, and wrestling, and were also accompanied by eating and drinking.
Professor Monis, I know our guests at home really appreciate you providing the details with regards to the religion of the empire, and it was certainly insightful to learn that that the Mongolian Empire was more than had a kind of like a monolithic or monotheistic approach. They had several religions that were instrumental in the culture there. I didn't realize that, but I think what myself and all our guests at home would love to hear about and get more clarity on, and that is the Mongolians. Were they truly as vicious and as aggressive and hostile as we've been led to believe, and in a constant pursuit of expansion of their empire through numerous invasions?
Yes, they were. And
Really?
I'd first like to start with the invasion of China. And the invasion of China were a series of major military efforts by the Mongols to invade, China, spanning 6 decades. In 1209, the Genghis undertook a large campaign to secure the submission of Western Xia. After defeating a force outside Wulei, Genghis captured the city and pushed along the Yellow River, defeating several other cities, and besieged the capital Yinchan, which held more than 150,000 troops. Emperor Li Anquan, threatened by the Mongols and receiving no relief from the Jin dynasty, agreed to submit to Mongol rule, and demonstrated his loyalty by giving a daughter of his, Chaka, in marriage to Genghis. One of the major goals of Genghis Khan was the conquest of the Jin dynasty, allowing the Mongols to avenge the earlier death of a Mongol Khan, gaining the riches of northern China, and to establish the Mongols as a major power in the East Asian world. Genghis Khan declared war in 1211 of the Jin dynasty, and while Mongols were victorious in the field, they were frustrated in their efforts to take major cities. Genghis and his highly developed staff studied the problems of the assault of fortifications. With the help of Chinese engineers, they gradually developed the techniques to take down these kinds of fortifications. As a result of a number of overwhelming victories and in the field, and a few of the capture of cities deep within China, Genghis was able to conquer and consolidate Jin territory as far south as the Great Wall by 1213. He then advanced with 3 armies into the heart of Jin territory, between the Great Wall and the Yellow River. Genghis defeated the Jin force, devastated northern China, capturing numerous cities, and in 1215 besieged, captured, and sacked the Jin capital of Yanjin, modern-day Beijing. However, the Jin Emperor Zhang did not surrender, but moved his capital to Kafan. The city fell in 1232, and the dynasty soon collapsed. While the Mongol force had success against the non-Han Chinese ruled states of the Jin and Xia, conquering the San took much more time. The San forces were equipped with the best technology available at the time, such as an ample supply of gunpowder, weapons like fire lances, rockets, and flamethrowers.
Wow.
The furious resistance of the Song forces resulted in the Mongols having to fight the most difficult war in all of their conquests. The Mongols quickly enclosed Xinjiang and defeated any attempt to reinforce it by the Song. After a siege lasting several years, with the help of Muslim artillery created by Iraqi engineers, the Mongols finally forced the city of Xinjiang to surrender. The dying Song dynasty sent its armies against the Mongols to Yehu under the incompetent chancellor Jia Sedu. Predictably, the battle was a disaster. Running out of troops and supplies, the Song court surrendered to the Mongols in 1276. These defeats led to the Mongol establishment of the Yuan dynasty, linking all of China together. The next invasion I'd like to talk about is the siege of Baghdad. The Mongols sieged and invaded the historic and famous capital of the Muslim world, Baghdad, in 1258. The siege lasted a little less than 2 weeks before 150,000 Mongols entered the city. Over a period of another 2 weeks, between 200,000 and 1 million residents were butchered, museums, hospitals, and monuments were destroyed, and an unfathomable amount of history and knowledge was erased, as libraries were burned and books were thrown into rivers. Haluj, the grandson of Genghis Khan, led the expedition into Central Asia, and his bold vision resulted in the conquest of this Muslim city, Baghdad. Since the Baghdadi leader had spit in the face of peace offerings much earlier, apart from Christians, every single man, woman, and child was murdered.
It's horrific. Okay. Well, I think you made it very, very clear for me, and I
Oh.
think our guests at home.
And I would like to talk about one more invasion.
Okay, but before we even get there,
Yes.
that there's no doubt that the Mongolian culture is hostile, expansive, and very ambitious.
Yes.
Tell us more about this last invasion.
Well, the Golden Horde invasion into Rus was a very critical invasion of the expansion of the Mongolians. In 1237, the Mongolians began invading Rus through the north and south, capturing the principalities of Ryazan, Pereyaslav, and Chernich. In the Kiev,
Kiev?
in the city of Kiev, the Mongols conquering party were executed by the inhabitants, and this greatly angered the leader of the Golden Horde. The Mongols reached Kiev with only 10,000 defendants in the city of Kiev by the next year, and they were very furious with the execution of their troops previously by the Kiev people. And so the Mongols destroyed the city wall with catapults and fought to the center of the city, where the battle was won after the destruction of a church. After the invasion, only 2,000 of the 50,000 inhabitants remained. The Mongols then set up a system of tariffs throughout Rus for settlements that surrendered to them. These settlements were able to continue their own forms of government, unimpeded by Mongol influence. Settlements that did not surrender, like the principalities I mentioned before, were left in ruins.
Okay. Wow. Again, just barbaric. But I guess it's that viciousness that allowed them to expand.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Professor Mundus, very illuminating tonight. Really appreciate all the details and the comprehensive explanation and perspective of the Mongolian culture. And I know for me, this was a night of growth and development. And I think for our friends at home, I think this was an illuminating night for them as well. Again, I really appreciate your time and in cutting out valuable time out of your busy schedule. So with that, Professor Mundus, thank you very much. And 60 Minutes thanks you, our home audience, for joining us. Have a good night.